Four corners. Coral reefs. Sydnie Meltzer Kleinhenz. Coral reefs and polyps. Coral reefs are like underwater cities. They are full of energy and activity. More species of sea creatures and plants live on coral reefs than anywhere else in the ocean. A coral reef may look like a rock formation on the seafloor. It is not. It is really made up of millions of tiny coral polyps. Polyps live together in huge groups. These groups make up a coral reef. These polyps are part of a coral reef. What are coral polyps? Until about 200 years ago, scientists were not sure what polyps were. Some thought that coral polyps were plants. They are actually small, soft-bodied animals. Some coral polyps grow a hard outer structure called an exoskeleton. Most polyps are only about 6 millimeters across. It takes millions of these tiny animals to form a coral reef. Coral reefs contain a huge variety of colorful sea creatures. Reefs are often called rainforests of the sea. Hard coral polyp. Mouth. Exoskeleton. Tentacles. From polyp to coral reef. Coral polyps make up the top layer of a coral reef. The lower part of the reef is made up of polyp exoskeletons. There are about 595,000 square kilometers of coral reef in the world today. It takes a long time for a coral reef to form. Studies have shown that, on average, a coral cluster grows outwards about 25 millimeters or so a year. At this rate, it would take more than 10 years for a new cluster to produce material about the size of a soccer ball. Cross-section of a branching coral. Live polyps. Polyps exoskeleton. Live polyps attach to exoskeletons of dead polyps to form a coral reef. How a coral reef grows. Young polyps, sea floor. 1. Young polyps attach to the sea floor. Polyp, exoskeletons. 2. As the polyp grows it forms an exoskeleton. 3. When the polyp dies it leaves behind its exoskeleton. Living polyp, new exoskeleton, old exoskeleton. 4. New polyps grow on top and lay down a new exoskeleton. The coral reef builds. Living polyps. Coral reefs develop in clear, warm, shallow waters. These ocean habitats are rich in a variety of life forms. For a coral reef to grow, polyps need food. However, polyps cannot freely move about to get food. Instead, they use their tentacles to catch food as it floats by. Polyps eat plankton, which is made up of many different kinds of tiny sea plants and creatures that float in the shallow ocean. A polyp first stings the plankton with its tentacles. It then pushes the plankton into its mouth. Some polyps also get food from algae, a kind of plant-like plankton. Some forms of algae actually live inside the bodies of coral polyps. Tentacles, polyp, mouth, stomach. A polyp uses its tentacles to push food into its mouth and down to its stomach. Living together. Coral polyps and algae work as a team. The algae make food for the polyps. In return, the polyps give the algae a place to live. This type of teamwork is called symbiosis. Hard corals. Pillar coral, cup coral, brain coral. Types of coral. All types of coral polyps grow in a similar way. However, different polyps form corals of many shapes and sizes. There are more than 2,500 different kinds of coral. Corals can be hard or soft. Hard coral polyps have exoskeletons. The exoskeletons help to make up a reef. There are about 600 kinds of hard coral. This spectacular reef includes many different types of coral. Soft coral polyps do not have exoskeletons, so they are not reef builders. However, these corals are still an important part of a reef habitat. Some corals look like tree branches, tiny pipes, or mushrooms. Other corals look like fans, feathers, or lace. One kind of hard coral looks like a human brain. Coral can also be many colors. It can be pink, yellow, orange, or rich purple, with colors so bright that they seem to glow. Soft corals. Spiral coral. Toadstool coral. Fan coral. Coral